A day that marked the end of the second Elizabethan age after the death of the Queen at the age of 96. She died peacefully this afternoon, drawing to a close the longest reign in British history. Her children and grandchildren hurried to Balmoral ahead of the announcement. Prince Charles has called it a moment of great sadness, but said the royal family would be sustained by knowing the deep affection in which she was so widely held here and around the world.
Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. Our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her.
At Buckingham Palace, a rainbow broke through the clouds as people gathered to remember the monarch who devoted her life to their service.
She's the only constant we've all had in our lives. I just want to show me respect.
She will leave such a huge legacy, huge, something that hopefully my children will follow.
The new King, Charles III, is at Balmoral this evening, preparing to return to London tomorrow, ahead of his official proclamation at the dawn of a new reign.
This is ITV News at 10. With Julie Etchingham.
Good evening. It was only 2 days ago that the Queen was doing her duty, as she has done every day of her life for more than 70 years, presiding over the change of Prime Minister. It was the last act of devotion to her job, one final effort on behalf of her country and her people, as her strength faded and her life was drawing to a close. This evening it did, peacefully at the age of 96 at her Scottish retreat Balmoral, which she has treasured for its peace and privacy. Her son, Prince Charles, now King, was at Balmoral with her and is there tonight. So too were her other children, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward. Her grandsons, Prince William and Prince Harry, arrived there too. In a statement, the new King Charles III said it was a moment of great sadness, losing a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. Well, that sadness has been shared outside those landmarks of the Queen's long life, like Buckingham Palace, and, of course, in ordinary homes, the length of her United Kingdom. A place that has been so often the scene of national and royal celebration is tonight sombre at the loss of our longest-serving, longest-living monarch, the only one most of us can remember.
The nation, her nation, had been blessed with a few hours to prepare, but when the news signalled by the lowering of flags to half-mast finally came, we discovered we were not prepared at all. How can one be ready for the end of an era, the breaking of a thread that has run through the entirety of most people's lives? Crowds rushed to the palace to see the simple posting of an official notice on the gates. It said simply, "The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon." And with that, the one universally admired constant in our nation's life was gone. The Queen's two elder children were in Scotland and with her at Balmoral. Prince William drove his uncles Andrew and Edward and the Countess of Wessex to join the family after a hurried flight north. Prince Harry, too, had rushed to Balmoral alone, and after the others, he appeared visibly upset not to have reached his beloved grandmother before she died. As Princess Elizabeth, the Queen had promised on her 21st birthday that the whole of my life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service. A promise kept in full, as just 2 days ago, however frail she now appeared, she accepted the resignation of one Prime Minister and appointed another. The 15th of her long reign, and the one to whom now fell the task of speaking for the nation.
We are all devastated by the news that we have just heard from Balmoral. The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world. Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. Today the crown passes, as it has done for more than 1,000 years, to our new monarch, our new head of state, His Majesty, King Charles III. With the King's family, we mourn the loss of his mother, and as we mourn, we must come together as a people to support him. And with the passing of the second Elizabethan age, we usher in a new era in the magnificent history of our great country, exactly as Her Majesty would have wished, by saying the words, "God save the King."
His Majesty the King, who confirmed he will be known as Charles III, spoke both of his loss and his country's. The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family, he said in a statement. We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world. During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held. The Archbishop of Canterbury, the eighth to have led the church of which she was the head, said in a statement, "In losing our beloved Queen, we have lost the person whose steadfast loyalty, service and humility has helped us make sense of who we are through decades of extraordinary change." Many who wanted a focus for their grief gathered at the gates of Buckingham Palace, some weeping openly. London's black cab drivers lined the Mall in tribute and respect. There will be many days ahead in which those here in Edinburgh whose lives she touched, those who had the privilege of meeting her, those who felt they knew her as well as their own grandmother, even though they'd never met, will have their turn to honour her in books of condolence or as she lies in state. But for today, it's the simple act of placing flowers and watching the rainbows that arched briefly over both the palace and Windsor Castle at the moment her death was announced, and of quietly giving thanks for a life of supreme duty.
Well, we can take you straight to Balmoral now, and Emma is there for us this evening. Evening to you, Emma. Senior members of the royal family gathered there this afternoon. Of course, we know many still there tonight.
Indeed, this is, of course, a hugely significant moment of state, but for those gathered here at Balmoral, for the family, it is an intensely personal moment of very individual grief. We knew that the situation was changing quite dramatically during the course of the day when we started to hear that members of the royal family were coming, making this journey north to be here at Balmoral. Then Prince Charles and Camilla made the journey, along with Princess Anne, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward and Sophie Wessex. Now, we also know that Prince William, now heir to the throne, came with his family, and also Prince Harry. He travelled alone and arrived shortly after the announcement had been made, looking visibly upset in the car.